Let's turn to our guest speaker for today. Tom Moyer is the Utah Co-State Coordinator for Citizens Climate Lobby, a nonpartisan group working with both political parties to create the political will for a livable world. He is the Chief Mechanical Engineer at HDT Robotics, working on driverless military vehicles and explosive ordnance disposal robots. He has previously taught elementary school science at the McGillis School in Salt Lake City and volunteered for Salt Lake County Search and Rescue. He and his wife, Lauren Burrows, live in the net zero house they built in Park City. Tom, with your diverse interests and abilities, you seem like a fascinating person who I'm certain we'll enjoy hearing from. If I might, before you begin, I'd like to introduce the audience to you. We launched our first chapter in March, and we have quickly grown to 8 chapters with possibly 6 more on the way this fall. Our chapters are comprised of people who are coming to climate advocacy rooted in their faith and values. They're committed to doing more than sending an occasional form email or to their members of Congress. They are reaching out to form relationships with their congressional offices as they advocate for justice. They are committed to the kind of transformational advocacy that you know well. And so we are anxious to hear your story and learn from your experience. Thanks so much for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Appreciate the introduction, and you sound like my kind of people. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Citizens Climate Lobby, but that's the organization Mike I know is a member. That's the organization I volunteer for and represent. And I'll be talking about the way we do citizen advocacy, and in particular, the way we do it in a red state. I'm going to start screen sharing. I've got slides. Please let me know if that works. You seeing that?
Looking good. Yep.
Okay. I think I first gave a talk called The Case for Climate Optimism in 22, about a month before the Inflation Reduction Act passed, at a time when the prospects for climate legislation looked like nothing. Everyone had given up. I saw reasons for hope then. A month later, we passed the biggest climate bill in US history. There are people who will tell you that we're in a down moment now. Climate advocacy is not popular at the moment. We've retreated on some of our goals. I think there's still a super strong case for climate optimism now. The writer Hannah Ritchie coined the term impatient optimism, and I have adopted that. Optimism means you are just trusting things are going to work out for the best. Impatient optimism means you need to put your shoulder to the wheel and make sure they work out for the best. So I mentioned I do climate advocacy in a red state. When people learn that about me, they usually say, wow, that must be an exercise in frustration. You must enjoy beating your head against the wall, or some version of that. And the truth is the exact opposite. I have never done anything so rewarding in my life. Okay. Picture on the right here is from 2 weeks ago, Labor Day, a hike with Senator John Curtis. Picture on the left is Citizens Climate Lobby giving a Climate Leadership Award to my Congresswoman, Mia Love. That was probably 2017, 2018. Mia Love died this spring of brain cancer. So I got to include a picture of her and a memory of her. She is the first person who convinced me that democracy works, that citizen advocacy works, that people can meet with their members of Congress. I was completely brand new at it. Didn't know how to do this, learned from CCL, felt my way through it. She went from having zero interest in climate change to being the seventh Republican member of the Bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus at a time when Republicans didn't talk about climate change. John Curtis now has made climate his brand, climate and clean energy. And he is, to me, leading the way on the Republican side in both houses of Congress for how you do this. And he just won election he was a House member. He just won his Senate seat in a 4-way primary with 50% of the vote. So I think you can say safely he is the most popular politician, statewide politician in Utah right now. So we all have a lot to learn in the way he talks about climate change and the way he speaks to constituents and colleagues about it. This on the right was a 4-hour hike we did with him. We've done hikes with him as long as 8 hours. The first one of those was his town hall. He likes being outdoors and he just wanted to do an outdoor town hall. So it turned out that Citizens Climate Lobby members were, most of the attendees for that town hall. And since then, we've just turned it into an annual event with us. So that's now our annual lobby meeting with him. It's always outdoors. We have separate meetings with his staff where we actually talk policy in detail and asks, but it's great to actually get to spend time with him. So those are two of the key people in my political life. This is the other important thing we do. We lobby in DC, and specifically we bring young people to lobby. Picture on the right is us from this year. I think there were 12 or 13 of us from Utah. Half of them are students. That's typical for us. It's our usual ratio. We help the students financially to get there, and we work to find and attract and bring students to lobby, and I think they are some of the most effective voices we have. This is a group of high school students from Logan High School. This is in 2018. That is at a bill signing by the then Governor Herbert of Utah, the first climate resolution, environmental stewardship resolution, we called it, in a red state. That overturned a 2010 resolution, which basically said climate change was nonsense and we should do nothing about it. So those students worked hard. It took us 2 years to pass it. And you don't get many like this, but it's important to celebrate it. Young people having an impact like that. So Citizens Climate Lobby, we specifically focus on what we're for rather than against. And this goes to how we do climate politics in a red state. It applies everywhere, but especially here. We focus on appreciation. Every lobby meeting starts with an appreciation. Doesn't matter who we're meeting with. We get meetings with the least supportive members of our delegation, and we get them fairly easily. They don't dislike meeting with us. We're usually looking for common ground. What types of things can we agree on, even if it's small? And what have they done that we can support, even if it's small? We never beat them up for what they're not doing. We always celebrate what they are doing and ask for more. That's an important piece too. It's not that what they have done is sufficient. It's thank you for what you've done, and now here's the next thing we want to work together on. And then specifically, we're nonpartisan. They know we're not out there endorsing their opponent in a general election. And it's a really key component of advocacy. It's really hard for people to support you if you then turn around and bash them in the press or hold a fundraiser for their opponent. So they know that we are here for them, that we will be working with anyone in office, regardless of who they are, and we will be working to try to move them in our direction, regardless of where they start. Being in a solidly red state is incredibly freeing for me because I can completely separate myself from partisan politics. My wife is a Republican delegate. We go to all the GOP events. We go to all the conventions, and folks in the GOP know me as a climate advocate. That's my identity, and they might wonder at my little oddity, but they don't reject it out of hand because I'm not out there trying to make enemies over it. I'm out there trying to grow the tent and build relationships. Important to think about where we are and how we do climate advocacy in this moment, we are winning. We are winning the clean energy race. I don't know about winning it globally, but we're winning it in the sense of making the technological transformations we need to make. This is what we've been building in the world of electricity generation. Electricity is only one piece of climate change, but it's a really important piece. It's the linchpin to everything. We're building four things right now: solar, wind, batteries, and natural gas. And solar, wind, and batteries are dominating. That's going to continue to be the case throughout the rest of the Trump presidency, regardless of what policies are enacted. That's what's in the pipeline. That is what's getting built. And it's tilting more and more in that direction every year. This is global. The world of buildings and industrial heat has already plateaued in the use of fossil fuels. Transportation has not, right? Transportation is clearly fossil fuel driven, but that is starting to show huge signs of change. Sales of internal combustion engine cars peaked in 2016. We're now on the downslope for that, and we're on the upslope for electric vehicles. It will take time to make that transition, but we will make it. The economics are now driving in that direction. We're in a world now, a climate world with good economics and middling policy. It is a lot better to be in that world than a world with difficult economics and needing good policy to overcome it. So we're now playing this game downhill. Another point on technology I want everybody to realize is how much people underestimate the pace of change. We're on steepening S-curves for these technologies, and everyone continues to get the pace of change wrong. Okay, let me just go to our current asks. What we're working on politically right now in DC is the implementation of the clean energy tax credits. The Senate actually passed the Congress passed a pretty decent version of the budget reconciliation bill. There's a lot of naysaying about this. We got most of what we wanted in those negotiations. Specifically, we got a started construction by standard to earn the tax credits, as opposed to a placed in service by standard. That was huge, and Senator Curtis really led the way on that. Grassley, Murkowski were also quite significant, but for Curtis, it was his driving issue, and he made it an issue that he was going to vote no on the budget bill over. So now we want that implemented the way Congress passed it. The Trump administration is dragging its heels because they came out on the worst end of that negotiation. And the next really big thing we need to work on is permitting reform. We're in a world where the faster we can build clean energy, the faster we can cut emissions. And our permitting protocols, NEPA and Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, those have been enormously helpful to the environment over their history. They have grown in their burden to the point where they're now obstacles. They don't need to be eliminated, but they do need to be significantly reformed. So there's a bipartisan path for getting that done in Congress right now, and we work entirely in the bipartisan legislative space.
Tom, this is really good. Can you wrap it up in the next 30 seconds or so we have time for Q&A?
I absolutely thank you, and I knew that I would have more to say than time to say it, but let's just stop right there and make sure we've got plenty of time for questions.
Great, terrific. That was very inspiring and very informative. We really appreciate that. In the audience, please raise either your digital hand or your actual physical hand, and we'll look for you. Tom, you may want to bring down your slide there.
Yeah,
so
I will. Thank you. Once everybody's got that.
But questions for Tom? All right, Jeff Spencer, go ahead.
I'm get the whole keep it nonpartisan thing. I'm wondering how religion works in the mix around that, especially for you personally.
I am not religious. My state is very religious, um, dominated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Being successful in politics, particularly an issue like climate change, means being successful with religious conservatives. So every single member of the Utah delegation is a member of the LDS Church. And as a result of that, I go to lots of LDS events. I'll be speaking, I'll be teaching a day of a class at BYU in 2 weeks. So extremely important. It's the linchpin to everything in Utah.
Tom, I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
So CCL has been doing this for a while, and you're really effective at it. And your goal is the same goal as Climate Hope affiliates, lobbying members of Congress. So are we duplicating our efforts here? Why should this bunch of progressive religious folk be involved in this whole venture?
Also an awesome question. The more voices, the better. We have had some meetings with congressional offices who have told us you're the only group we hear from on this. And we really need, they respond to constituents, and they respond to a variety of constituents. So they needed to hear from as many different points of the compass as they possibly can. Citizens Climate Lobby has one brand. They need to hear it from others. So they needed to hear it from you specifically as a religious community, that it's important to you because your voices carry weight for the entire community. Our voices carry one kind of weight, but the more of them, the better. The word that raises no hackles in my state is stewardship. Everyone loves stewardship. And I think we can unite, we do unite on the desire to leave the world a better place after we've been in it. So we don't need, and this is really important, we don't need to beat people over the head with climate science, right? As much as we ourselves are convinced of the need for action, we really don't need to convince other people of that in order to be effective. We can share a desire to improve the earth and leave it better than we found it. We can share a desire to reduce pollution. We can share a desire for a better world for our children. So I think those are all really effective messages. And the LDS Church actually has really good language around the environment and around stewardship. It hasn't leaned hard in asking its members to take action. And I think the short-term thing where it's going to raise awareness is the fate of the Great Salt Lake. Thankfully, the Great Salt Lake is mostly not climate change. It's mostly water diversion. And the church just last week announced a big donation of water shares that they own, you know, and they have held for possible development. They just donated it to the lake. So that water will now flow in perpetuity to the Great Salt Lake. It's about 1% of what the lake needs for a healthy level. But it sets the message for the community. What the church does has huge ripple effects. So I would love to see the church take similar steps on climate change, but they're already doing some good things, putting solar on church rooftops, speaking the right language. The church is not an opponent on this. We would just love them to be a more vocal ally.
Right. We are down to our final minute, Tom. Is there anything that you would pass along as sort of a communication tip for how best to communicate and find common ground with a Republican member of Congress? Is there something that you haven't mentioned that you want to share on that?
Yeah, the one key thing that ties everything together, and I'm sure that this will come as no surprise to any of you, but You cannot convince anyone of anything if you hate them. It will not work. They will see it. They will know it. You will know it. The only way to have any of these conversations is to open your heart.
Wow. Thank you for that. I wasn't expecting you to go there, and I really appreciate that. I was waiting for some nuances about what language to use, but no, I really appreciated that response. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a terrific presentation, wonderful answers to the Q&A. We are so grateful that you took time on your Saturday to be with us. So thanks a lot. That was terrific.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.